My name is Ayman, and today together with me are Abu Aziza Al Quraishi and little girl Lisa. When I told that they're today together with me, I mean that they're not in this room, they're not in this building. Okay, they are in this building, but they're in my head. Do I imagine them? No, I don't think so. After a year and a half working with my psychotherapist, I find out that I am part of the multiple system. What it means? That I have some of diagnoses in dissociative spectrum, some condition in dissociative spectrum. I don't know yet. It would be dissociative identity disorder or another very close condition, because it depends on what kind of amnesia you have. We have emotional amnesia and sometimes we have ordinary amnesia, but ordinary amnesia is very rare in our system. When I told system, I mean this body and all others who live in this body, and how they working and live together. Okay? So now we are waiting in a very long line in NGS clinic, and we are waiting in another very long line in NGS clinic, not because of our dissociative diagnosis. First line about dissociation, about our fully diagnosis, because I want to know what kind of condition from dissociative spectrum I really have. But another line is because we are transgender. Okay, I am a transgender person, I'm non-binary person, and we live in trans-masculine body, and I want to finish my transition. So, what else I could tell about me? I am autistic person. Me, Ayman, is autistic. I was the one who created the first initiative group in Russia, creating by autistic people for autistic people, and the first non-pathological website about autism, Neurodiversity in Russia, or Нейроразнообразие в России. I am very proud of all of this project. Also, I was engaged in LGBT activism, in feminist activism, in anti-racist activism, and have very big problem with government. I was even accused that I am a terrorist just because I was openly Muslim when I was living in Russia. And for example, some of my elders continue to be Muslim now, but I am now agnostic. But in Russia I was openly Muslim, and I write some articles about Islamic feminism. I continue to write about it in my blog when I was living in UK, was already living in UK. And one of Russian politicians considered that person who was openly Muslim and write about Islamic feminism, but in the same time reading something about Islamic extremism, some academic works, this person certainly terrorist. I don't know why, but for Russian citizens, and yeah, really not just for government, for many Russian citizens, you are a terrorist if you just read about a terrorist and you are Muslim yourself, or you was a Muslim. Okay, I don't know what it is, so don't ask me. But yeah, I was a victim of violent terror. So now I live in UK. This is the third country where I live in after... No, this is the fourth country where I live in. I was a refugee in Russia, I was an asylum seeker in Israel, and now I am an asylum seeker in UK, and we are waiting for answer for our main interview. I really deeply hope that Home Office would give us fully refugee status. Okay, why I am making this video? Why I decided to make it in my channel? First of all, because I want to speak more about intersectionality. Many people in our system really enjoy Kimberly Crenshaw writing. Yeah, I introduced her work for our littles and for another guys, and they decided that wow, we finally find something about us. I was the one who created another project, Prisechenia, intersected, when I lived in Russia. And now we want to make channel about multiple people who belong to several other marginalized groups. I hope that this channel would be not just about me, but about other people in our system, because many people in our system deeply engaged in some social right activism or social justice activism. We were making our projects in Russia together, even if I didn't understand it in this time. But for example, one of our littles, Mowgli, he's not an interject, he just very like this name. So Mowgli want to speak more what it's mean to be autistic kid in families that doesn't accept you. Our little Lisa want to speak more about selective mutism, about some problems with speech, because she was autistic kid who have many problems with speech. Okay, she's still autistic kid who have many problems with speech, but when she was my co-host, when she ruled this body with me most of the time, and Ayman was a kid in this year, so I have many problems with my speech, more problems with my speech that I have now, and Lisa still have it, and she want to talk about it a little more. Yeah, and Abu Aziz Al-Quraishi want to talk more about Islamophobia in European country, in USA, and of course in post-Soviet Union country and in Russia, and about violent terror and mistakes of the violent terror. Another alter Eric want to talk more about anti-Semitism. So if you want channel with many different topics, but it's all would be a little about neurodiversity, this channel is for you. And I hope that I would have interview with another guys who belongs to different marginalized groups and could speak more about topics that interesting to other guys in my head, okay? And some of the videos would be more about me, more about our experience, more about our political or social ideas. But all of them would be a little bit about multiple life or about autistic life, about neurodiversity. Or something near it. Maybe we would have some videos, some special episodes not about neurodiversity, but most of our video would be about neurodiversity. Why? Because we are living in a society creating binary typical people for neurotypical people. It's not so many multiple characters on TV, and most of them portrayed as the monsters, as the thriller characters, and as super villains. And of course, this is a big problem. Most autistic characters portrayed not like real people, but like some people who became some person. Sorry, Lisa have problems now. She have this selective mutism stuff, and it's become very difficult to me to speak, because Lisa remind me about some TV show or films with autistic kid characters, and these films was not about autistic kid characters. These films was about how their parents hate these autistic kids, and so now it's become a little difficult to me to speak. Yeah, representation of autistic people and representation and multiple people representation are really awful, and we want to change it, at least on YouTube. I remember how important to me it was when I first realized that I could be autistic before all this diagnosis stuff. When my parents doesn't support me, they believe that some of my problems because I have a very poor will. I'm not a strong person, and another my problems because of the devils, because I'm possessed. And it was very important to me to see other autistic guys on internet, especially autistic guys who believe that autism is not a disease. My way of thinking is not bad. Society is a problem, autism not its problem. And after I realized that I am multiple, I started to find information in neurodiversity paradigm, and it really helped me. So what neurodiversity is? Neurodiversity is just the fact that exists in our earth. We all have different brains. Our brains are working a little bit different. And it's not bad, and it's just part of life. Some conditions are disease, other conditions just neurodiversities. These neurodiversities could be a disability. For example, autism is certainly a disability because our world, like I already said, created by neurotypical people for neurotypical people. And we have some problems with accommodation. And of course, if you are multiple, your experience is so weird for most of the people, and many multiple people have strong amnesia and problem with communications inside their heads. So multiplicity and autism disabilities, and this is certainly, but it doesn't mean that this is a disease. For example, if you suddenly would appear in the world when everyone could read your thoughts, and in this world everyone is telepathic, you would be considered as a person who are disabled, because you would need some kind of accommodation. But the fact that you couldn't read someone else's thoughts, that you are not a telepath, it's not something that make you ill, okay? Because you're not suffering, because you don't have a telepathy power. I think most of the people not suffering about it. Or otherwise, for example, if you would appear in the world when no one except you could hear, you would consider it disabled too, and you would need some kind of accommodation. So disability is more about society. It's more about power and power dynamic. And disease is more about medicine. Disability is about how life in society fit for several kind of brain working and body working, okay? And disease is more about if this condition is something that make your life problematic itself, doesn't depend of community where you're living. So for me, if I wouldn't be an autistic person, I would be completely another person. If I wouldn't be a multiple person, now I realize that I don't know how to not to live in cocoon, how to live alone. Most of the time, me and some of other alters control the body. So if I wouldn't be a multiple, I would be completely another person, and I couldn't really even realize, even fully imagine experience of this person. I don't want to be a singular, I don't want to be a neurotypical analyst, I want to be myself. I understand that autism could be the reason why we have some problems like, for example, sensory overload or problems with speech. And multiplicity could be the reason of amnesia, of course, it is. But neurotypical people have their problems too, because of their neurotype. For example, I noticed that many neurotypical people more culturally depend that most of autistic people. It doesn't mean that neurotypical people are ill. This means just the neurotypical people are neurotypical people.